Today I'm going to go and take the blue Cavalier CD down to the workshop and get it all ready for its MOT. I know it needs discs and pads and probably a brake pipe. Shouldn't need too much else, but let's go and find out. Before I go anywhere, I'll just jet wash the boot out because it's been used for carting tools and bits and everything a bit for that long that it just began to smell really bad and was just full of crud. If you want to know water leaks in your boot, there's a drain channel there, and there's a drain channel over in this corner as well, and they can get blocked up and let water in. What I've found though is, on a saloon, the water will come in there. Right where that sort of spot welded line is, that's where the water drips in on this, and that's what I need to fix. The seal itself was actually okay, so yep, that's that washed out. Just need to get it dried out a bit, which isn't easy because it's now starting to rain. Well, I'm hoping that this isn't going to need too much. It shouldn't do. We're about a knock for the front end, it's been there for a while. But aside for that, I replaced the exhaust on it, and I did the sump during lockdown when it was sitting on the drive. So we'll see what happens. So I'm just sitting in 5th gear, cruising along at the moment. This is one of the reasons I like this car so much. Vauxhall never built an XE on a long gearbox, and I can't help but think that it would have been quite an interesting option if they'd done it on, say, the Diplomat, where you could have the XE with a wide ratio box on it, because it's got so much more legs on it. It does blunt the acceleration a little bit, but it turns the car into it's a great thing to drive this. But anybody who's familiar with the normal C20XE close ratio gearbox, you don't see it's got quite a different character to it. Obviously it's not going straight back onto the cams every time you change up, but you do get, there's a lot of mid-range torque there. I like it, I wouldn't swap it. I don't think I would even bother going to the extent of putting an F28 in it. I like it so much. That's 4th gear at 60. Oh man, look at all the water here. It's done nothing but rain all night. I think the new drainage pump's helping though. Right. Oh, there we go, lifter's gone quiet. Happy days. first thing to do is check. Definitely got a bit of a knock coming from this side. Can't see anything obvious. Anyway, take the wheels off it.
There's all my prizes.
We'll see what the brake discs are behind the wheel. I know that they're starting to judder quite a bit. I know that it's overdone. It's totally overdue.
What you expected?
What am I expecting? Rusty, horrible brake discs.
Not be correct.
Oh yeah, still.
wow.
Had my money's worth out of them.
Oh well, Diggs, I would like to say I think you've definitely had your money's worth out of them, buddy.
Ah, good. Right, sound. Yep, they're done. Kenzo thinks it's hilarious for some reason. I can also see locking behind the brake disc. There is. Nice bit of rust. One of the most common areas in a Cavalier to go. I would imagine this will need quite a sizeable plate on it, but it's not a problem. They all pretty much all get that done at one point or another. Right. It's quite well stuck in that. Ah, loads left in the pad, so yeah, they've done all right. Take that off, get all these bits cleaned up with the brush grinder. Just to move that light up, get the way top up on it. Starting to you need to sit up there, out the road. Key thing. Been on there a while. I think it's been hot. I've got to say, like, I don't usually run discs for as long as that because they usually warp or fall to bits. I mean, these have fallen to bits, but I've really had my money's worth out of them. They've been on there for about 4 years. And I've done quite a lot of hard braking, so just going to fit the same again. Right. Hub needs to be made absolutely spotless with the old brush grinder. Otherwise the disc will end up warping because it will not be sitting exactly right. spotless. If you're not cleaning your hub up to that extent, then you're not going to get the full life out of the brake discs, in my opinion. Anyway, what I also want to do is go and clean up where the pads sit in these carriers, because if they're not sitting properly, then your pads will jam in, and the best way to do that is with the old skin remover. Spot on, those pads will sit in there perfectly now. A bit of grease in them. I mean, you could go and paint the calipers and the carriers and make them look nice, but I'm not, because I don't care. Right, and here's the replacement discs, exactly the same as before. These have been brilliant. I got these off eBay. I'll put a note in the caption as to where I got them from, but they've done well, so let's go for the same again. Clean off with brake cleanup. Right. Good old bit of copper grease around here. So the disc will come back off again. Imagine how bad that would have been if it didn't have copper grease on it. Another thing, I'd better just check if they're lefts or rights, I can't remember. There's something I'm not completely sure about is what way do the lines go on these vented discs. I've got them going sort of back the way there, but you could also reverse the discs and have them so the lines are sort of cutting forward. I'm putting them back on the way that I had them because I've had such good long use out of them, but I don't know if it makes a difference or not. There's no recommendations on the packaging, so I'm just going to go for that. And before we start pushing the pistons back in the calipers, it's well worth taking the cap off of this, because when it pushes the fluid back up, if that's got a tight seal on it, then you'll end up blowing the seals in the master cylinder. So we'll just leave that sitting like that, and then push the pistons back. Pushing the pistons back, I just use a set of welding clamps. Should go back no problems. If they don't, then you've probably got a bit of a caliper issue. But these were replaced not that long ago, so they should be okay. Done. Brake pads, a set of Cintexes, and just put a bit of, this brush is a right state, just put a bit of, get the finger involved here. This needs a bit of copper grease around the edges of it where it actually slides. You don't need to completely cover the pad in grease because it will just go everywhere, which is not what you want in your brakes. Tiny bit in the back there. That's outboard one done. Pad in. An outboard one there. Just slot into place like so. There we go. Sorted. One side done. Go and do the other side, then starting that metal plate. The wheel off the other side. In actual fact, the disc on this side looks much nicer. Without They've worn in really well. So impressed with how long they've lasted. Got is just on the brake disc on the passenger side, found that this isn't any better. So common on old Vauxhalls. That's a replacement panel there that's been welded in. Well, I say welded. Put in there ages ago. So we're going to have to go and clean this all up and get back to some decent metal. Probably as well going quite far up with this. Oh, isn't this lovely? Yeah, so we're going to be going from about there, right the way along there, down into there. I'm going to get rid of all the grot in there. This is pretty normal, even for like a otherwise good Cavalier, believe it or not. Okay, so I've cut this section out. You can see you can go up to a point and there's a line there. That's like the box section of the chassis rail. So it won't rot out. Well, it shouldn't do any further than that bit. So I'm going to clean up all this edge now because it's a bit double skinned at the front. So we'll get all this cleaned up round there, and we'll have to clean up the inside of that because I don't want to leave it rusty in there. And then we'll get a plate made up to go right the way across there. And I'm going to use this old Mark III Astra bonnet for a bit of metal. Right, I've converted over onto a grinding disc for this. This is just horrible, this bit, because just rust and dust and crap goes everywhere. Once that all cut out and ground round the corners, and I want to clean it all up inside as well. I don't want to leave all that rust and crap sitting in there. Cleaned out the inside out with a needle gun and get something in there to try and protect it, and then get a plate cut out of that bonnet. There we go. Bit of Loctite rust remedy. There's some of this in there. Stuck some of it in the pot. We've removed a couple of sections of bonnet from the Astra. I'm going to try and do it in two plates to put it in there, so I'll look now. I reckon if I can get the first plate in there, and then once that's in place I can work around it and get this one. It's going to need reshaped a bit, but I'll get that to go in there. That's the plan. Start off with this one anyway. Fire a bit of this ancient hammerite inside here to give it a bit of protection from rusting out from the inside. Just going to hope that I'm not going to set it on fire too much on a weld, but can't go anywhere in here, so it'll be fine. Well, that's the first plate clamped into position, so I'll start trying to get a weld on it. Should be alright. So I've decided to go and use the Vauxhall bonnet instead of the plating tin that I've got, because it's a bit more heavy duty. So we'll see. It should weld really nicely up there. This bit at the bottom might be a bit thin, but we'll give it. First plate in, was more difficult as I thought to get any sort of weld onto there, so I was able to turn the weld up higher at the top part where the metal's a bit thicker, but now I just have to try and get a second part on here. Ready to divide it up into 3 plates. I was getting a great bit of weld up the side up there. It was okay along the bottom, and the top bit I just blown it to smithereens, so I'm going to have to grind that down and try again. No idea why it behaves like that. Go, that's it done. I ended up doing it in 3 sections. That was horrible to weld to. Some of the bits get a nice weld on it, and other bits it's just blowing straight through, putting holes and things, altering the settings in the welder. But that's 3 quite thick metal plates in there now, so I'll get it seam sealed up and then get some more rust protection stuff on top of it, and that should be that. Right, well, finished doing one welding plate in the Cavalier on Saturday night and I got fed up. At least I got it done. I'm now going to go and look at a Corsa V6 that doesn't run. It's been another project that somebody's bought for somebody else. This is a Calibra V6 wiring loom, so I'm going to take it with me just to see if there's any bits missing off the one that's on the Corsa. Well, that's not a bad bit of progress. Set of front discs and pads on the car, and getting that bit in the inner wheel arch welded up. The other side's not as bad. There's one plate in the back of the sill to do, and it should be alright. Shouldn't need much for the MOT, if anything, apart from that. There is that random clonk sound off the front end. I don't know what it is, maybe a strut top or something. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what this Corsa's like, I wonder. Because it was bought for somebody else as a project that wasn't running, and it won't run. They're always good to look at. Good thing about this is if I turn up and make this run, I'm going to look really good. And if I can't, well, you know, wasn't it running in the first place anyway. Oh, Jerry's. I could be doing with some dinner out of there. I've got a face mask though. I wonder if they would deliver it. It's wearing the camera. I think the place is in here. There we go. No parking at any time. Oh look, a Cavalier of some description.
How'd you go with your welding, man?
Fine.
That one Oxford.
I'm recording this now.
GL.
V6 Corsa, right? So we've got a black live there that we need to connect because it will no run. I don't think it will run with that black connected, so we're going to connect it to something off the Corsa, and we're going to do some connecting of the wires in the footwell because the V6 wires should have everything in the loom to make it run apart from anything else. It's a bit dark round here, but if we connect up the fuel pump wire, a couple of other ones round there, see what it does. There's 4 wires at the fuel pump, which also does the gauge, but we just want that red-blue wire. That's all we care about. And if we can get that connected to the V6 loom, something should happen. Go for it. We've got the black wire connected. We're direct onto the fuel pump. Give it a go. Oh! There we go. Well, so I don't know. You didn't need any of that Corsa stuff. No, that wiring plug there is going to give you your oil pressure switch, I think. But it should all be self-contained. Sometimes they're self-contained off the loom, and sometimes it comes through the starter loom and connects onto something else. But well, it's running now. You're not far away with it, huh?
Definitely running. It smells lovely petrol.
That'll be all right. Do you reckon the boy ever had it running?
No. That's why it was cheap.
Says it good at running and then it ran out of fuel straight away, so
Of course it did. That was the last of the fuel that was in it.
never got rid of it after getting fuel for it and he gave up with it.
Minted. Oh well. That's away again now. Oh, that's alright then. No worries. You'll have to go in and look for. Well, it's got a battery light in the dash, but if you want to strip some of that Corsa stuff out it,
Nowadays, I'll just took the end and make sure there's no lines in them. You just take them up, tuck them up behind the dash, tidy it up a good bit.
Well, hey, that was alright. 2 wires. Fuel pump direct to the V6 limb and the black ignition live, 2 favourites. That'll go well, that V6 Corsa. So aye, time for something to eat. I don't have a mask with me, so I'm not going to take away. I'm going to go to the McDonald's drive-thru and I hope it's not really busy. I'm absolutely Hank Marvin. Plan with this is hit it with some hammerite, lovely hammerite, let it dry off and then shoots it over the top with a gun to try and rust protect it as much as possible, because this area is just a nightmare. The rust through again, I don't know why, but hopefully with all that treatment on it, that'll stop. Talking about water leaks, you can see here, because I've got the arch liner out it, that's where your water is supposed to run from the bulkhead. It runs down the inside of the wing there, if the water's draining properly, which it is on this, because I've already sealed it up, but I guess it must just continually run and congregate in there, and that's what causes the rot, as well as it hitting it from the road. The Cavaliers are particularly bad for this, so let's all go and bash this about a bit and see what we're dealing with. I shouldn't be ending up going up as far as this like I was on the other side, but you never. Well, let's cut that out. There's plenty of good metal to get to, but again, I have to clean it all out inside here, and I need to get this bit off the front, like where it's like double skinned together. There's no point in trying to weld on top of that because it just won't work properly, so I'm going to have to grind that down and burn it off. Right, drawn up the plate that I'm going to cut out using the handy Mark III Astra bonnet. What was it ever going to be used for, eh? But we're also going to do a follow-up video on how to make sweet bonnet vents on the back of this. Oh, that'll fit in there. Perfect. Just the same as before, I've had rust eater inside there and I've just painted some hammerite inside it, so we don't have that rusty bare metal. I'm going to get the plate clamped up and get a weld on it. It should weld okay to that. It looks pretty good, better than the other side, which is a bit rougher. There's a welding helmet at the back. Alright, there it's there, cool. Okay, so that's the plate all welded in. It was a bit of a pain. One setting it's blowing holes in the metal, and another one it's not sticking, but I decided to do a bit of welder maintenance and put a new tip in the end of it, which improved things quite a bit. So that's it in anyway. We'll go and get that covered up now and then go and do the one in the sill. So next up's this lovely hole in the back of the sill. It was plated up there a couple of years ago, and see that's gone rusty again on that. So I'm going to try and get this as good as possible. The front of the sill's still solid, so I'm going to have to spend a bit of time on that, cleaning it up. I've spent ages cleaning this bit up, and I've taken off the outer bit of the sill, so this is better metal. You can't really weld on top of that grotty bit of sill. What this is the leading edge off the Mark III Astra bonnet. So I'm going to cut this to size and I'm going to plate it in there because it's rigid. It's got a nice bit of angle on it which will give it the strength back in the sill there, I hope. And then I'm just going to plate across the top of it. Clean this up because that's gone all rusty. That's no bloody good, can't have that. So here's a little piece of metal which will fit in there. And I can weld that in from both sides and that will give us the, well, that cleaned up, and that will give us that lip along there and keep the strength in it. Okay, there's my little bit of metal clamped into place here. So see if I can get some weld on it and ground that gradually, and then we can get our plate across the sill sorted. That's it. And a bit variable, every time you pull the trigger you get a different result. One minute it was blowing holes in it, but it's definitely penetrated that. Look around to the other side. I'll now go and seal that off, the other part of that there. Well, that's it plated up. It was a pain. I had to put an extra little plate in there, an extra one at the front there, and it was blowing holes and things and not welding properly a bit at the time. But that's it done now, and we've got that nice lip on there. So once that's all cleaned up and painted, you're never going to see it anyway. Done. I guess that if you wanted to go any further with it, you would have to put entire sills on it, which is really the job of a sort of professional body shop. In the meantime, I think I'll give them a clean up and stone chip them anyway. Try and preserve them a bit more. Well, I've just checked the MOT online to see when it's due, thinking it was like now, and it's been extended to the end of January 2021 because of the coronavirus thing. So there's no rush. But that's me put the plate, I said both the plates done at the front over this weekend, and I put a plate at the back of the sill. Probably needs a couple of brake pipes front to back. They're a little bit corroded. It would be good practice to do them, but there's no rush, I'm not doing it today. What else does it sort of need? Oh yeah, there's two kind of little holes at the back of the floor, but I think I bumped it off the drive and it scraped it. So I've got two little holes to do in the floor, and I need to sort out the front jacking points, which I've rotted out on it, which is a really common thing on a Mark III Cavalier, Calibra or Astra. And you used to be able to buy them online, but as far as I'm aware at the moment you can't. So I'll have to look into that. Apart from that, it's looking alright. That's not bad. I mean, it's got 152,000 on the clock, and it's done about 160,000 because the clock's changed at one point and it knocked it back a bit 1 year. It's not bad at all. But aye, that's enough. I think I'm going to go up the road now and put the interior back in that GL, and then we'll go and see what it drives like. So here's what's left to do. I'm going to sort out these jacking points at the front. I don't know what the solution for those are, because you can't get them anymore. We have got a weird little hole in the floor there to sort out. A hole there where I scalped it off a curb at the driveway. That was my fault. Give the sills a good clean up. I just give the floor and the axle a bit of a tidy up as well, you know. I've started with a needle gun around there. So, not too much of a rush. Oh yeah, this is my exhaust. This cheap exhaust that I got. An Ecotech exhaust, the same as a V6. But it kept splitting at the front. And what I did was I fitted this lovely flexi onto the manifold, so hopefully it'll stop doing that. But yeah, that's not too bad. It's an ongoing project that does a lot of miles. I'm going to clean up the wheel well. That's all just surface rust on that. It's all pretty solid up the back there. Get this all cleaned up over the course of the next few weeks. Just get ready to go home, and it's decided to randomly smell of petrol which is something that Cavalier's do. He was doing it last summer. And somebody going, excuse me, there's quite a strong smell of petrol from your car. I'm like, yeah mate, it's Cavalier, they'll do that. Standard. No, I can't see anything. No. I'll go and get it down in the ground and jack it up so I can get the back of that sill, get that cleaned up with the brush grinder and then get some treatment on it. And it's all rusty, the plate that I put in last year. Which it shouldn't be, the paint must have washed off it. Right, I need to jack it up carefully at a point whereby I can get into clean up the bit that was welded. A bit of load spreading, perhaps. Should be okay. She's got right. Can't get in here due to the ramp leg, so I'll give this a clean up with a brush. And then get something nice on it. Switch the power on, man. In fact, you know, plugging it in, I mean, that would be great. That would make a hell of a difference. I was a little bit concerning when you open the boot of your car after you've been welding it and a load of smoke comes out. That's fine. Right, heading back up to the house. That's the welding done on this. Good bit of progress on it. Nice bonus to find out it doesn't need an MOT till January, but there's nothing urgently needing done on it anyway. I'm going to go and put the interior in the white GL and get that a bit up together. It's actually turned out into a nice day, there's a bit of sunshine, so I kind of resent being indoors welding and grinding. Kenzo wants to go and pick up this Astra GT that he bought and didn't tell me about because he thinks I'll tell him not to buy it, which I would have done, because he does not need that car. He needs to get on with his Cavalier Turbo. So we'll go and move that to Stonyburn and then go and get the Omega, because I've left it at rock soft gravel since I was out in that lorry last week and I kind of forgot about it. I think there's some stone chip in the back of it, because I need to go and rust proof this sill. Aye. So that's alright, productive enough Sunday.